Some people enter your life to use you. Others enter to replace you. But Eunha, she entered his life just to be invisible. Seoul was awake before dawn, humming with its usual restlessness. Streetlights blinked against the fog, buses hissed at their stops, and office workers clutched coffees like lifelines. But at the corner of Gangnam's busiest intersection stood Eunha, a young woman wrapped in a beige coat, gripping her resume like it was her last breath of hope. She wasn't special. That's what she always told herself. A barista by morning, a courier by afternoon, a cram school tutor at night. 24 years old and already exhausted by life. But debt had a way of stealing youth quickly. Medical bills, her brother's tuition, rent that kept climbing while her paycheck didn't. Today, she was waiting for the interview that might change everything. A personal assistant job at Hansen Group, Korea's most mysterious private conglomerate. She didn't know the CEO. Everyone said he didn't like being known. His name? Kang Jisoo. Young, brilliant, cold enough to freeze a wildfire. But Eunha wasn't afraid of difficult people. She'd survived life. Anything else was manageable. When she stepped into the lobby, she didn't realize her life was about to twist into something impossible. Fate doesn't knock once. It knocks twice. The second time, it demands something. They brought her upstairs immediately. Not for the interview, not for paperwork, for a meeting. The doors to the top floor opened to reveal a room so silent it felt forbidden. Emotional distance radiated from every object. Minimalist furniture, steel, glass, nothing personal. And at the center, like a shadow carved into a man, stood Kang Jisoo. He looked up from his tablet, paused, stared at Eunha like he was trying to decide if she was human. "Mina," he said quietly. Eunha's breath stuttered. "I'm not her." His eyes hardened, but not with anger, with calculation. "Sit." She did. Jisoo studied her with unsettling clarity, his expression unreadable. "You look like her, exactly like her," he said. "She disappeared 2 months ago." The room stiffened with unsaid pain. Eunha felt her lungs tighten. "What does this have to do with me?" Jisoo leaned forward. "I need someone to take her place." Her blood ran cold. "In public only," he added, voice clipped. "A temporary arrangement. Appearances. The chairman's health is fragile, and the wedding announcement must be completed. If he finds out she ran away..." "You didn't finish." "He didn't need to." Eunha's heart hammered. "You want me to pretend to be your fiancé." Jisoo didn't blink. "You will be compensated. Handsomely. Money. The thing she needed more than anything." But something inside her rebelled. A life borrowed from someone else. A lie wrapped in silk and gold. Still, debt didn't care about morals. "What happened to the real Mina?" she whispered. Jisoo's face finally cracked, not with softness, but with a flicker of something wounded. "She left me." The silence that followed was thick with abandonment. Eunha swallowed. "And you think pretending everything is fine is the answer?" "It is necessary. Not for love, not for heartbreak, for the company." But the faint ache beneath his controlled voice made her realize something. This cold man wasn't untouched. He was broken, just quietly, and he needed someone. Not a lover, not a partner, a stand-in. Eunha stood slowly. "I'm not Mina," she said firmly. "I can never be her. And I don't need you to love me," Jisoo replied. "I just need you to help me lie." The world tilted. Her choice was simple. Walk away and continue drowning in debt. Or walk into a lie and earn enough to finally breathe. Eunha closed her eyes. "Fine, I'll do it." And that was the moment both of their fates snapped into place. Some contracts bind money, Others bind destinies. Night settled over the city like a heavy curtain, but Hansing Tower remained bright, a lighthouse of wealth against a tired world. Yoonha sat in a silent conference room as lawyers slid documents toward her. Pages and pages of rules. No public affection unless required. No crossing personal boundaries. No asking about Mina. No falling in love. Yoonha almost choked at the last one. Jisoo stood by the window, looking down at the city. He wasn't watching her. He didn't need to. His presence filled the room like gravity. She picked up the pen. Before she signed, she looked at him. Why me? Anyone could have done this. Jisoo turned his head slightly. No, only someone who looks like her. So I'm just a shadow. His jaw tightened. The world only needs to see your face. Nothing more. Something inside her cracked a little. But she signed. The moment her name touched the paper, the contract became more than ink and legality. It became a chain. Jisoo finally looked directly at her. Not cold, but unreadable. We start tomorrow, he said. And then he did something unexpected. He softened. I'll make sure you're safe. It wasn't affection. It wasn't comfort. It was a promise, metallic and quiet, from a man who didn't make promises unless he meant them. Eunha gathered her things and stepped out into the hallway. But just before the doors closed behind her, Jisoo said quietly, "You won't regret this." She didn't answer because she wasn't sure. Outside, the cold air hit her with the force of reality. She was no longer just Eunha. She was stepping into a life that wasn't hers. A life built on lies. A life that belonged to another woman. But she didn't know yet that somewhere inside that borrowed life, she would find a love that was finally hers. It wasn't fear that kept her awake. It was the terrifying realization that her life no longer belonged to her. The elevator ride down from the 42nd floor felt longer than the years she had spent struggling to survive. Eunha stood inside the empty lift, staring at her reflection in the mirrored walls. She didn't look like someone who had just agreed to become another woman. She didn't look like someone who had just sold her identity. She didn't even look like herself. A fluorescent lights washed the warmth from her skin and left her expression hollow, almost unfamiliar. Was this how Mina felt? A woman disappearing into the shape others carved for her. The elevator chimed softly and the doors opened into the quiet lobby. The building had emptied, leaving only the soft hum of cleaning machines and the distant footsteps of security guards. Eunha tightened her coat. The Seoul night was waiting. Outside, the wind slapped her cheeks, but even the cold couldn't clear the storm inside her chest. She walked slowly, looking up at the towering glass facade of Hansung Tower, the place where she had walked in as Eunha and walked out as someone else. Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. But she already knew who it was. Jisoo, someone will pick you up at 7 a.m. Don't be late. Eunha stared at the message. Brief, sharp, final. You didn't ask if she reached home safely. He didn't ask if she was scared, because in his world, fear wasn't an option. And she had chosen to enter that world. You can borrow a face, but you must learn to wear the soul that comes with it. Her small apartment welcomed her with darkness. Eunha didn't turn on the light. She just slipped inside and leaned against the closed door, her breath shaky. This place had always been her safe corner. Mismatched furniture, peeling wallpaper, humming old refrigerator, a single plant by the window trying its best to survive. She had fought to build this life, worked herself until her fingers numbed, and now she had signed it away. She pressed her forehead against the cool wood behind her. Eunha, what have you done? Her reflection in the dark window stared back, frightened and fragile. She stepped toward her dresser and found an old picture of her and her younger brother, Sunwoo. His smile was wide, innocent, hopeful. He had no idea of the sacrifices she was making. He didn't need to know, but it reminded her why she had said yes. Money, security, a chance to break free. She needed this, even if it came wrapped in lies. She opened the contract copy the lawyers had emailed her. Clause 14 stared back. The stand-in must adopt the public behaviors, mannerisms, and presentation of Seomina as directed. Eunha dropped onto her bed. She had never even met Mina. How was she supposed to become her? The clock glowed 12:04 a.m. Sleep felt impossible. Her mind spun like a wheel that refused to stop. What was Mina like? Soft-spoken? Elegant? Privileged? Did she laugh easily? Or had her eyes carried the same shadows Jisoo's did? Why did she leave him? Her body trembled with a question she didn't want to ask. Was she stepping into the life of a woman who ran away from something dangerous? A knock suddenly echoed through the silent room. Eunha froze. No one visited her this late. She tiptoed to the door and peered through the peephole. A woman stood there, tall, poised, in a dark formal coat, sharp eyes, a leather folder in hand. Not a threat, but not harmless either. A stranger from Jisoo's world. The first person to test her wasn't the man who hired her, but the woman who knew Mina best. Eunha unlocked the door halfway, keeping the chain on. Yes, the woman's tone was polite but cold. I'm Choi Hae-jin, Director of Protocol for Hansing Group. Protocol. That already sounded like trouble. I'm here to assess your readiness for tomorrow. Assess, Eunha repeated. Yes, becoming Seomina is not a costume. It requires finesse, behavior, precision. Her eyes scanned Eunha from head to toe. You have the face, but do you have the presence? Eunha felt her stomach twist. May I come in? Hae-jin asked. Eunha hesitated, then nodded and unchained the door. Hae-jin stepped inside, her gaze roaming the tiny apartment with thinly veiled judgment. We'll keep this brief. Tomorrow's schedule is tightly packed. She opened the leather folder and pulled out a glossy binder. On its cover, Seomina, Public Persona Guide. Eunha's breath caught. She has a guide? Hae-jin didn't smile. She was the chairman's chosen daughter-in-law. Everything about her was curated. She flipped open the file. Pages of photos, outfits, hairstyles, typical expressions, preferred poses, signature smile. Eunha stared. It felt like reading the blueprint of a ghost. This is a lot, she whispered. Hae-jin's voice was firm, but not unkind. You will have stylists, trainers, and security to support you, but you must understand something important. She moved closer, her eyes locked onto Eunha's. Mina wasn't weak. She wasn't a doll. She wasn't someone who simply followed rules. Eunha swallowed. Then why did she leave? Hae-jin's expression flickered, something like regret. That is not my story to tell. Eunha felt a chill. Hae-jin straightened the binder and continued. Tomorrow begins with grooming, fitting, and etiquette rehearsal. You must memorize the basics before the chairman sees you. Tomorrow? Eunha echoed. At fast? Time is not a luxury we have. And there are rumors. Rumors? That someone may know Mina is gone. Eunha's heart stopped. So we need to move before the truth spreads. She felt the weight of those words like a stone dropped into her chest. Hae-jin closed the folder. One last thing. She examined Eunha with quiet intensity. Do not ask Jisoo about Mina. He does not talk about her. Eunha lowered her gaze. I understand. Hae-jin nodded once, then headed for the door. Before leaving, she said softly, You may be a stand-in, but this world will treat you like the real thing. Don't get crushed." And then she was gone, leaving Inha alone with a binder that held another woman's life. Before you step into someone else's world, you must say goodbye to your own. The binder lay open on her bed like a map to a life she didn't own. Unha traced a finger over Mina's photos. Elegant, graceful, polished, everything Unha wasn't. She took a slow breath and stood before her mirror. Her reflection stared back, tired, scared, unsure. "Tomorrow, I won't be you," she whispered to the glass. "But tonight, let me say goodbye." She moved through her apartment, touching the things that held pieces of her story. Her chipped mug, her brother's school notes, the plants she'd been trying to keep alive. The old shoes she wore to every shift. Everything humble, everything real. This life wasn't perfect, but it was hers. Now she was about to step into a world of silk lies, cold promises, and a man with eyes that carried storms. She lay down at last, sleepless, staring at the ceiling. Her phone vibrated again. Another message. "Jisoo, get some rest. Tomorrow will be difficult." It was the closest he had ever come to kindness. Yunha hugged her pillow, her chest tight. Tomorrow, she would become Mina. But tonight, she allowed herself one last moment as Yunha. And in the quiet darkness, a truth settled. She was not ready, but she would learn. You don't notice the moment your old life ends until you realize it's already too late to walk back into it. The alarm didn't wake her. The world did. Seoul's morning sun slipped through the curtains in thin golden stripes, warming Unha's face. For a moment, she forgot who she had agreed to become. She lay in her small room, curled under a thin blanket, breathing the familiar scent of detergent and old books. But at exactly 7 a.m., a sleek black SUV rolled to a stop at the bottom of her building. The kind of car that didn't belong anywhere near her neighborhood. A sharp knock echoed through her apartment door. Yunha sat up, heartbeat stumbling. This was it. The moment she stepped into a life that was not hers. "Nis Enha?" the woman asked. Yunha nodded timidly. "I'm Yoon Sarah, image consultant. This is Dongha, your security escort." Security. The word felt foreign, heavy, unreal. "From this moment on," Sarah said, "your life is no longer private. Everything you do will be watched. Everything you say must be controlled. Are you ready?" Unha swallowed hard. "I'll try." "Good," Sarah replied. "Trying is the minimum. Becoming is the goal." They led her downstairs. The neighbors peeked through curtains, whispering. Yunha didn't blame them. Even she wouldn't believe this scene if she saw it. As the car door shut behind her, the city outside blurred into motion. She took a deep breath. There was no turning back now. It was the first time she saw herself disappear. And the first time she asked if love meant losing your own name. The stylists were still circling her when Unha started to feel the air thinning. Foundation softened her jawline. Waves framed her face. Soft pink blurred her lips into a gentle curve. But when the head stylist stepped back, everyone stilled. "Perfect," he whispered. Yunha lifted the mirror, and the breath in her lungs stalled. The woman staring back wasn't Unha. She wasn't the girl who lived in a rooftop apartment. She wasn't the sister working double shifts to feed her brother. She was Mina. Soft, elegant, untouchable. Her heart lurched. "I don't recognize myself," she whispered. From behind her, Sarah's voice carried a cold truth. "That's the point." Unha's hands tightened on the mirror. Her vision blurred, not from tears, but from a fear deeper than she had words for. If she kept this up, If she kept pretending, what pieces of her would be left when she took all of this off? Every lie has a moment when it demands a price. Tonight, the price was her freedom. Instructor Taeyoon waited for her in the mirrored rehearsal studio. He didn't even look up when she entered. "Stand straight," he ordered. "Shoulders back. Chin up." Mina never slouched. Yoonha obeyed, but something inside her felt wrong. Every step made her feel like she was sinking deeper into someone else's shadow. Again, he demanded, "Walk across the room." She walked, stopped, turned, again. Her feet ached. Her jaw hurt from holding the practiced smile. Again, he tapped her chin. No hesitation. Mina was confident. Again, her throat tightened. Her hands trembled. Again, her chest felt hot and heavy. Again, something snapped. Unha stopped in the middle of the room. "No," she whispered. Taeyoon frowned. "Excuse me?" "I said no." Her voice was shaky, but the truth behind it wasn't. "I can't keep doing this," she said. "I can't erase myself to become someone who ran away from her own life." Silence. Her reflection stared back. Not Mina, not Unha, just a girl trapped between two worlds. "I'm not her," she said softly. "And I never will be." Taeyoon watched her, then surprised her by lowering his shoulders. "Then why are you still here?" She didn't have an answer. Not yet. The hardest truths are the ones said in silence. Sarah led Unha to Jisoo's private office. Her chest throbbed. Her palms were cold. Not from fear, from certainty. This meeting would change everything. The door opened. Jisoo stood behind his desk, reading documents. He lifted his eyes slowly and froze again. Not in admiration, not in pain, but in recognition of how well the transformation had worked. "You look like her," he said quietly. Unha's stomach twisted. "That's the problem." Jisoo's brow lowered slightly. "Explain." She stepped closer, not as Mina, not as Unha, but as someone who finally understood the truth. "You didn't hire me because you needed Mina," she said softly. "You hired me because you couldn't face losing her." His jaw tightened. "You don't know what I feel." "No," she replied. "I only know what you see." Her voice trembled, but she didn't look away. "You see her shadow, her shape, her absence." Jisoo swallowed once, barely visible. "And where am I?" she asked quietly. "Where does Unha exist in any of this?" A long silence followed. Finally, Jisoo looked down. "You're right," he said in a low voice. "You were never meant to have a place in my life." It hurt more than she expected, but truth had a way of clearing the air. Yoonha nodded. "Then it's time I walk out of it." She stepped back, for the first time, as myself, and Jisoo didn't stop her. Endings don't always come with applause. Sometimes they come with quiet steps, walking toward the future. Una entered the stylist room one last time. Everyone turned, confused. She reached up and pulled out the hairpins. Her curls fell loose. She wiped off the glossy lipstick, removed the earrings Mina used to wear. Piece by piece, she stripped away the life that wasn't hers. Sarah stepped forward. "Inya, are you sure?" She nodded. "I walked into this building as someone who didn't know her worth. I'm leaving it as someone who finally does." The last piece was the mirror. She looked at herself, truly looked, and whispered, "This is me." And for the first time since all of this began, she believed it. She walked outside. Cold evening air brushed her cheeks. Her real face, her real skin, her real life. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew it would be hers, not Mina's. not borrowed, not bought, hers.